Okay, so in this video, we're going to look at the absolute value function. Just to remind you what this looks like, I'm going to show you here very quickly. This is what we're talking about, the absolute value of x. Okay, so by definition, this function is actually defined as follows. It takes the value x for any value of x that is greater than or equal to 0, for instance. It takes on the value minus x whenever x is less than 0. So let's just go through that. What does that mean? What it means is, if you know the absolute function, you know that the absolute function is about positive values only. So whatever value, whatever input you give to the absolute value function, the output is always going to be positive. So in other words, the domain is anything, all from minus infinity to plus infinity, but the range is going to be all positives. So the domain of such a function, okay, is minus infinity to plus infinity, okay, and the range, okay, is r positive, or it means from 0 to infinity. Okay, so it's going to be positive always. So the range is r plus 0 to infinity. Now let's look at some examples of how this function actually works. So for instance, if I have the value x equals 5, how will I evaluate this function? Where will x equal 5 fit in? So will it go here? I mean, is x greater than or equal to 0, or is x less than 0? Well, clearly x is equal to 5, which means it is greater than equal to 0. So therefore, we are on this level, so to speak. So we will be using this part of the formula, okay? Which means that let's introduce f of x here now, which we are quite familiar with at this point. F of x is equal to this. So that means that f of 5 is equal to the absolute value of 5, and according to this, it's going to be just x. And what is the value of x? It's just 5. So it's going to be 5. Let's try another example. What about x equals minus 3? Let's have a look. Well, let's have a look at this. Is it going to be on this level or on this level? First, let's just analyze the values of x. We have an x value that is minus 3, which is of course less than 0. If it's less than 0, it means this one, which means we will use this definition, or this part of the definition. So it's going to be minus x. So that means, it means that f of minus 3, which is actually absolute of minus 3, which we know is 3, but let's just apply the formula. So it's going to be negative of minus 3, the value of x, which is equal to 3. So therefore, the absolute value function always returns a positive value. So let's look at another example of absolute value function. So let's see this absolute value function, f of x equals absolute of x minus 1. So according to the definition, it's simply going to be x minus 1, okay, as it is. Let's put a bracket around it. For x minus 1 greater than or equal to 0, and it's going to be negative of x minus 1 when x minus 1 is less than 0. So the key here to remember is that if you see the previous example of the absolute value of x, it's what's inside the absolute signs that is greater than or equal to 0 or less than 0. So as you can see, the formula here, okay, and this one, what's negative, and this one, these are identical in all in these definitions. Now we go further, and actually we can simplify this. So this is x minus 1 when x is greater than or equal to 1, and it's equal to minus x plus 1 when x is less than 1. Okay, so that basically is what defines this absolute value function. So let's look at just a few further examples within this one. So if I wanted to calculate, for instance, f of 3, okay, that's equal to, well, clearly that fits in this line because that 3 is clearly greater than 1. So it's going to be up here, which means I'm going to use this formula. So that means it's going to be 3 minus 1, it's equal to 2. Now if I go for f of 0, so that's equal to, where does that fit in? Let's just check. 0 is less than 1, so it fits here, so we'll use this formula. So it's going to be 0 plus 1, so it's equal to. Now remember that it should always give a positive value. You can never get a negative answer. None of these values, these absolute value functions, that's the primary thing to remember. The main thing to remember, they will never give you a negative answer. Choose any value you like, and it'll always give you a positive answer. So let's try one more quickly. F of minus 5. F of minus 5 clearly is less than 1, so we will use this formula again. So it's going to be negative minus 5 plus 1, and it's equal to, so it's equal to 6. Okay, so that's the answer to that one. Okay, one more quick example. So for this last example, I'm going to leave this previous one here so you can connect the two just in case. Here's the next one I want to look at. Say some function g of x is equal to absolute value 3x minus 2. By definition, again, we will take this piece here. This is the key piece here, 3x minus 2. So remember, it's the positive 3x minus 2 when 3x minus 2 is greater than or equal to 0, and it's negative of 3x minus 2 when 3x minus 2 is less than 0. Right, so let's simplify that. Now, just to be sure you understand, you see this 3x minus 2 here, and the 3x minus 2 greater than 0. And then the negative 3x minus 2 when 3x minus 2 is less than 0. Okay, that's the key thing to keep in mind. Simplification is straightforward. This is just going to be 3x minus 2 when x is greater than or equal to 2 over 3. And it's negative 3x plus 2 when x is less than 2 over 3. So this gives us basically the definition of g of x. Now if I want to calculate g of 0, for instance, well, let's have a look. G of 0 would fit in here because 0 is less than 2 over 3. So therefore we will use this formula. Okay, so that means it's going to be minus 3 times 0 plus 2. So it's equal to 2. And if I do another example, g of 1. Now 1 is clearly greater than 2 over 3. So it will be greater than 2 over 3. So we will use this formula. So it will be 3 times 1 minus 2 is equal to 1. So if you want, you can use another one like g of minus 5. Let's do g of minus 5. G of minus 5 would of course fit into here because it's less than 2 over 3. So that's going to be minus 3 to minus 5 plus 2. So it's equal to 17. So that's basically how we calculate these values. The important thing to remember is important. Okay, let me put it here. Important. Okay. Absolute value is always, answer is always positive. Answer is always positive. Okay, that is extremely important. Look at all these answers, positive, 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 well, and this is positive. Okay, so please keep that in mind. Please keep that in mind that all the answers are going to be positive or 0. Okay, so there'll never be a negative answer. So this is the definition of the absolute value function.